All right, I got 6:02, so I'm gonna call this meeting to order. We'll go through, let everyone have a chance to read through the minutes that's been presented to you. Rosalie and I sat down and kind of went through all the things that we had done on the temporary use permit discussion. And so there's your bullet points. I want to reiterate that these are all discussion points and that this body does not have the authority to make any laws or institute any fees solely. All that would have to go before the full commission and be voted on. I know those rumors have gotten out that this body has put into effect the fees that were discussed, and that's not legal for this body to do. But whoever takes over this commission and whoever's on this subcommittee going forward, I wanted to leave an up-to-date, accurate account of the things that this body had already voted on as points to what needs to get changed. And I want to reiterate at this point, we already have temporary use ordinance laws on the books. So if the next subcommittee group that meets here decides, well, we're not going to do anything, by not doing anything, you were then telling Rosalie that the existing law is what you want done, and that's what she's going to be enforcing. So if no one decides to take this up and continue kind of going through that ordinance, that part of the ordinance, and fixing the temporary use, it's going to be as overreaching as it currently is, because that is the current law. Does that make sense to everyone? We found that and realized, hey, this is overreaching. It needs to be cleaned up. That's what we were trying to do. If it doesn't get continued and finished out, you're going to be left with what is on the books currently. And that is her responsibility, is to enforce what's on the books.
The way that fee stands right now, it's $100 per.
Yes. That is the current minimum.
It means if they have one, do one 2 months later.
It's $100 for the next application.
So what we were working and bringing forward was actually,
was trying to reduce that and work with the food trucks and try to get something meaningful. But hey,
Somebody talked to me about it. I agree with it. Is there anything wrong with not requiring it if it's not on county property?
something for y'all to discuss at another meeting. As it sits, what we have is what we have, and Rosalie is charged to enforce what we have.
now, I thought we discussed that if like a food truck comes in to do catering at a wedding or something like that doesn't require.
No, that's just a catering. Yeah,
Or if they come into a birthday party or
that's just
private
catering.
event on somebody's farm or something, yeah, like I said, that doesn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
but it's not in writing that it's.
It's not the way it is right now.
We don't have a food truck permit.
There's a difference between a food truck selling to individuals in the county coming to them and a food truck going to
In a
your
restaurant style sort of.
and coming to your house and serving food out of a mobile kitchen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Those are two different subjects there, but let's go ahead and let's do something on these minutes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to start into the discussion before we got to that.
Motion to approve.
Go ahead, a second.
Change here, I wasn't on the part, but she already knows it.
I've made the adjustment. David Milner was left off as being present.
Okay,
And
because
so now I've updated that.
Motion to approve with the amendment.
Second.
Jeff seconds, Lonnie makes the motion, and yeah, because the last motion in your minutes says David Noner seconded. So we have evidence he was here.
Indeed.
All right, all in favor? All right, so we'll move on. Rosalie, you have anything for us?
So I know there's been some speculation on whether or not the ribbon cutting at CPAT will take place at the end of the month, and I'm happy to say that it will take place. The state fire marshal and myself along with the contractor, have worked out a plan. The building may not be completely done, but they would be able to have a temporary CO. Given that they have a fire watch in place, and I've requested that they use our fire department to provide that fire watch while they do the ribbon cutting and the building.
Have you scheduled that with Mr. Buckmaster?
Yes, sir.
Chief?
We already have.
You,
But what time will the thing be?
I believe it's in the morning and it's about 2 hours. So I know you can look at the billboard, the electronic billboard up there at McMurray and Broadway. You'll be able to see what time it starts. I believe it's 10, 10 to 10 maybe.
and they've posted on their Facebook page too. I think the
Mhm.
chamber posted also, trying to get the word out. I think that's gonna be a huge improvement for the
Oh,
education system. in
It'll be
Troutdale County.
a great thing for Trout County. You
I-
got, I know somebody now that's in Lyman School and they gotta go to Atlanta for half. When this school gets up and going, they don't have to drive to Atlanta.
And then the programs they're adding, there's a real shortage for those career paths in this area. So it'll be helpful to the hospital. Yep. Anything else, Rosalie?
Building permits are still pretty consistent. Getting more single family residences rather than the accessory structure. Gee, a lot of people wanted to get pools this year. I have no idea why. So, you know, there's quite a lot of bit of activity and everything. And we are trying to make sure that there's going to be somebody in the office. If need be, for those that have questions, trying to get business license, there's an increase in the number of business licenses being issued. And there we have it. Thank you.
Any questions for Rosalie? On the fire ordinance amendment, I made a statement during the last commission meeting that I would get something before you guys. I was hoping to have something more finished, at least reviewed, and something I could submit to the full commission at the end of the, for this month's meeting, but it's not gonna work out that way. What we can do here, the ordinance is here before you, is straightforward, nothing more than what I said I would bring forward. Commercial planned unit development, traffic impact study, and that is an impact study. So that is the more stringent of the two. On all commercial planned, and then on all residential, on any plan that had 30 or more dwellings would automatically require it. Now, that doesn't keep the commission from requesting the lesser of the two on a smaller project, but this puts it in, hey, if you're gonna do more than 30 units, that's a direct impact. We need a study done. And it puts it as one of the bullet points. So when they come into Rosalie with all their stuff, that's now would become a requirement. So before planning ever sees it the first time, that study's already in place. We left it general. That we kind of ran into some issues with that. I think this is going to make it much easier. This is actually what the engineer for this first PUD requested that we do if we wanted these studies done, just to have it up in the upfront. So I'll let you guys kind of read through that a little bit. But I thought it was just short and sweet, just it gets added into the zoning. I've sent this to Mr. Beller for review and heard no response back, so I'm assuming that with no response that it's good to go. So this could go, if this body approves, could then go before the commission this month to be looked at and voted on. It would still have to go back to planning before the final reading. And planning would have to review the final unedited version before the final vote.
Well, the residential plan unit would be like individual houses, and then the commercial would be like what they're doing
No,
now.
so residential would just be a pure residential. So it could be townhomes, apartments, individual homes. But then the commercial is a mixed use. So that's commercial or residential or solely commercial.
So I'd like to point out, item number C,
Mhm.
where it says down here on the second line, a traffic impact study will be required at the discretion of the county planning commission. I think that it really should be my office making that discretion, because if you
Yeah.
wait to go to the planning commission, then you've already circumvented, I mean, I have to ask the planning commission, and that means you're already going to the planning commission once. And given that we know that if it goes twice to the planning commission, if they don't do something there,
So that is a typo on my part.
Okay.
That's supposed to say county planner,
okay,
and not supposed to be commission. So that is an edit that thank you for catching that.
sure.
It's why I wanted to bring it in here for everyone to look at so we can catch this.
Well, could you, if you're gonna do county planner, I guess I am the planning director. Still kind of leaves some, if it's not really defined in your definition who the county planner is. I mean, I don't know if that's a title that you have.
It is, I mean, it's part of your encompassing office.
Right.
Wouldn't it just
In building official.
building official, or I don't know if it would be a discretionary thing, or just 30 units could be 60 cars order.
Well, so that's the point. So 30, if you look at it, it says for the residential in B, if you've got 30 units or more, you have to
Yeah.
do it.
I know,
But if you have less, it's giving Rosalie's office the
Yeah,
discretion.
because I mean, okay, so you got 25, that's 50.
So like I said, the idea was
Still
below
a deal.
30, she then has the discretion to order it. So if it's 15, maybe not. If it's 25, you're close enough to that
I'm
30.
thinking at 10, past 10, because I mean, if it's 12, 15, that's 24, 25. That makes a big difference. You ought to see what it's like to get out of my drive.
No, I understand.
It took me 9 minutes the other day to get off my road.
Anyone who is trying to get onto McMurray between the high school and the elementary school understands that.
Yeah.
Unless you're at one of the red lights, and even then, you're still sitting there a minute.
What about just simplifying anything less than 30? That's already.
Well, that is
I
what
think
C.
anything over 10, make it mandatory. Because 10 is 20 cars. 20 cars is a big deal. 15 people. That's 30 cars.
So
I think it's really gonna kind of depend too on what road it is. I mean, you've got some wider roads and access points. I mean, if they're doing a subdivision, not necessarily near McMurray Boulevard, going by the TCAT and stuff like that, that may not be as impactful, collector roads.
That's a good point.
and things. So,
like right now, we have one PUD we've already voted on. That's 80 units down there at Sulphur College in 25. Well, we also have another one that just came through planning this month, and it's for 11 units there across from Rolling Acres. Is that the name of that subdivision?
Rolling Meadows.
Rolling Meadows.
Okay, Rolling.
So that 5 acres that was been for sale for a while. And that's going to have 11 individual homes with 3 commercial buildings in the front. Well, that's only 11. And you're not going to have 20 cars dumping out all
But the
times of the
commercial
day.
buildings are gonna cost.
You'll have some commercial. So the idea was at 30, there's no doubt at 30 or more, you need to have this study done because it is the impact. Now, remember, there's the 2 different levels, and the impact is the more expensive and the more extensive. So you're mandating over 30 or more, it's mandated. You pay for the extra, which is about $15,000, what the engineers are telling us. Under that, the idea is to give Rosalie's office the discretion, depending on where it is in the county, depending on if it's on major arteries or whatnot, to be able to then say, okay, yes, you need to do an impact. Also, she then still has the ability to say, well, because where you're at, I don't need an impact study. I just need the lesser study, the assessment study. And it gives her office that, so that the information is at least given and it doesn't take any authority away from the full commission. That if you disagree with Rosalie and believe, well, we do need an impact study, you can still request it. But this gives the applicant the upfront understanding, this information has to be.
Yeah, I misread. Thank you. That makes perfect sense.
So yes, we'll make that edit for the county. How did we, when we did the new ordinance, what did we actually classify? Because we need to have that match, because it's going to be in that document. We need to have all the language the same.
What are you talking about,
For your office.
Sorry.
Codes enforcement.
No, I don't think it was codes. I thought it was planning, but I might be wrong.
Well, I know,
Building commissioner.
Yeah,
yeah, well, I am building commissioner. Are you talking about a combined ordinance?
yes.
I was gonna say, planner, a lot of big cities.
Mhm.
Mayor has a person under him.
Yeah.
That does,
There's a
they
city
call
planner.
him a planner or other names, but they sometimes,
And they're part of the codes and zoning
yeah.
administrative.
But they work under, you know.
Yeah.
The mayor,
City planner is.
yeah,
And-
not like her,
In
what,
our situation, she is the planner. She is the codes enforcer. She
Yeah.
is the inspector.
you
She
know,
does all three roles.
So we have building official in the definition.
So building officials who I need to,
that sounds good.
And then, just as an aside, and David, I'm sorry if I'm sidetracking or anything. Things are changing in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And, public chapter 1044 addresses how developments are to be looked at and evaluated. I've arranged with the Center for Local Planning to come and do a training on PC 1044. And it's looking like it's going to be October 1st. And it'll be upstairs in the courthouse. And it's Adam McCormick who will come and provide that training on how it is. Just kind of a quick little teaser about it is that it will have a committee, and I know we talked about this before, people evaluating developments coming forward even before it ever gets planning. So it'll encompass myself, superintendent of roads, and with myself, once we get stormwater in, it'll encompass that, but also whatever water utility needs to be represented, whatever electric utility needs to be presented, whether or not gas is also going to be. So all of these things, all these people have to get together. Other jurisdictions have what they call construction meetings. And that's when all these people get together and evaluate what needs to happen with that. And so rest assured, any type of traffic or transportation will be addressed at that time.
Question.
Yeah.
No, ain't no way we can get anything in on stormwater.
no. That is a large
The heavy
chunk
heater.
that we were gonna wait to see who was gonna actually be on this before we picked that up. We didn't have enough time in the rest of this year to be able to get to that. It's got to get done.
Mhm.
Whether it gets started in planning and rolls that way, if the commission's not willing to pick it up themselves.
You watch the news.
That
last
needs to
night?
get,
See that guy from Galvin? Neighborhood that built an elementary school,
Mhm.
had the big pond, runoff and all that. Big pond couldn't hold the water runoff and it flooded their neighborhood, the
Yeah.
whole neighborhood.
And in Trousdale County, it has historically been underestimated the flow rates of runoff because they don't take into consideration how much rock we have to soil. And it hits these hills and just rolls.
Oh, well,
And there's just nothing to slow it down. And as we keep cutting trees down,
I got a neighbor
it
that,
makes it worse.
old woman, her never had a bit of problem with water coming down. She passed away, somebody bought the house, they done a bunch of work around the back of it, water pours down past my house. Got ditches, I mean, it tore my yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, my yard right up.
But the planning commission earlier in this session put forth a on addressing cutting trees down and whatnot, and that was shelved as overreach of government. We tried to come and get some ordinances go to try to minimize our trees being cut down because of erosion and runoff. That was all shut down. Maybe the next commission can pick that up.
To do it.
But what Rosalie is talking about is the state of Tennessee has said you will start addressing planning whether you want to or not. So the things that through her office and through planning and discussions that we've had here, we've been trying to get this information all compiled so that all the different entities of our infrastructure are all on the same page. Now the state's saying you will do it. It's not an option. And you're going to pay for that committee to meet. Hopefully they'll meet as part of their own job, but more than likely they're going to want a stipend just like everyone else gets.
Traffic study thing will be on that. January, starting in January, like you.
So that is something that whoever the chairman is on for the next session, I would highly, and I'll say this on the record, highly recommend that whoever is sitting in this subcommittee attend that training. Because if you're going to be in codes and zoning, you need to know what the state's telling us you shall do so that we're prepared for that. Planning needs to be there, BZA needs to be there, and this body needs to be there for that training.
Really, all county commissioners need to be there because
It would be beneficial.
they also have to review PUDs.
They do. And they're going to need to know what those requirements are. And the big one that came out of it for me was the deadlines are all set now for approvals. And if you don't, as a body, don't meet those deadlines, it's automatically approved the way it sits.
60 days,
So your new commission is going to have to be up to speed and is going to need to know the information and how to dissect this information because they're going to have to make decisions. They can't put it off. If you put it off, you're going to get whatever you get. And the state's going to tell you, don't care. If Rosalie misses an inspection, the whole project's approved as it is.
Well, that's not so much me doing an inspection. The inspection part of that is that it also details out the roles and responsibilities of the planning commission.
Mhm.
And part of the planning commission, when it says site inspection.
Yeah.
Planning commissioners are supposed to be reviewing the sites. Not necessarily talking to anyone about that because while they're there, because of the sunshine law and everything, they have to wait until they're in a public forum. But site inspections are going to be one of the check boxes that the planning commissioners will need to be able to go out and look and see, okay, when you've got this plat in front of you, what does this property really look like? Does this really have a grade? Does it really dip here? What are they going to do about that? So it's just really going to help planning commissioners become better, BZA members to become better if a variance is asked of them, and also the county commissioners understanding that process because it may be that we have to add staff in order to accommodate that as well. So it'll be very beneficial. I know.
But once again, it is another unfunded mandate from the state of Tennessee for Charleston County.
Now, I will say this, that some of the items that they were talking about that has to be established, we're already doing in the planning office. We have a calendar. I make it out every year. Here's when the planning commission and the BZA meet. Here's the submittal deadline. You have to do these submittals in amount of time because you guys know we've had that discussion where public hearing postings have to be within, well, not 48 hours. Public hearing goes into the newspaper.
Yeah.
And those signs have to go out as well.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be too much of a stretch for planning so much as it is making sure all the I's are dotted. And didn't mean to wait on you.
No, it is very important. And the fact that people who are actually voting and making the decisions are now going to be forced to actually go and get the information for themselves, not just depend on the planning office to provide that information. So there's more set of eyes. So now it's not well, Rosalie didn't tell us. Yeah, but you were there. it's your responsibility. It doesn't just fall back on Rosalie because maybe she did tell you and you just weren't paying attention or you forgot about it. That would actually help with the situation that ended up, years back with Hickory Ridge, where they ended up changing some site plan around and all of a sudden they took away the actually zone required cul-de-sac at the top of Hickory Ridge. And no one ever caught it. No one said anything. And I just happened to miss that meeting, being sick that night. And it got sent through, it got signed off on, and there's no cul-de-sac at the end of my road, which is against all our zoning. So, hopefully it'll help keep that from happening. It does predate Rosalie. I'm not trying to throw anything out on her. But that's just one incident that I know of personally because I live there. So I'm excited about that. I'm not excited about the cost that it's going to incur onto that office. And for other commissioners who look at that office and say, well, you're bringing all this money in. Well, that goes to the general fund and you don't need any more money than you're doing. No, the state says she's going to have to do more and it costs more to do more. So that's going to have to be addressed in the next budget, along with all the other stuff that is going to have to be addressed, which is not my problem anymore. The pending items, I do want to get in the minutes. So we've got the temporary use that we were discussing. That's in last month's minutes. That's already there. We have, let me kind of get through this before I forget. We also were picking up, now it just escaped me. Go ahead, Rosalie.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. It happens every now and then. Thoughts just leave my head.
You get worse, you get over
On
it.
number 8, you've got here that you're requiring a certified third-party traffic engineer to evaluate the traffic study
Mhm.
on the commercial.
Yes.
Who's going to be paying for that?
Well, according to what was presented to the commission, the applicant pays for that. But honestly, that third party could be TDOT. I don't know if TDOT would charge the county for that. Well,
He not charged them.
so there's that. That's something that we need to look at. Like I said, I threw together an ordinance with the meat of it. We need to kind of parse through this and make sure that everything is figured out here. So we'll come back to that ordinance now.
Yes, sir.
So looking at that, I mean, that was the discussion that came out of that meeting, was a third party reviewing it, not just taking the word of the hired engineer, which I don't know if a third party needs to be involved. That third party engineer is certified by the state of Tennessee, and they're held accountable for the work that they turn in by the state of Tennessee. So technically you're getting a third party evaluation with that because it does require a certified, not just an engineer. So that certification does kind of meet that. So if the body is so inclined, we could just remove that part out of that.
And just to kind of let you know, any type of engineering report that I receive from anyone, I always go online to the state website and I verify that their license is valid, that it's still effective and not expired. And you can see what the engineer is certified in or any other type of contractor. And if that certification is not there, then I don't accept that report whatsoever.
And I can appreciate that. At the same time, the ordinance we're doing is going to hopefully outlive all of us. So I want to make sure that there's no room for implied. So if that's the will of the body, that they look at that certification by the state and that accounts for the third party, we can remove that from the language, or we can leave it in there and then determine who pays for that third party review. So that's the question before you guys. What do you want to do?
What if we did what you said about the third party, then paying for it, but just put could instead of should. That would be depending on us whether or not they need the third.
Okay, so instead of shall, you're saying,
So instead of should,
May.
be maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
Maybe,
way, if
or
we
may
decide, if
also
we
be
think it's
used.
too big and it needs a third,
but if you do that, you still gotta determine who pays for it.
oh, yeah.
They're already paying
Could
15
be
grand.
at the petitioner's expense.
Could be.
Yeah.
Cause that isn't under commercial unit developments.
Could be required at the petitioner's expense.
That's not just a local contractor building some houses. That's a commercial PUD, which would be a larger project.
So it could be required at the petitioner.
So that would go to May. And then paid for by applicant.
Yeah, before, at the applicant's request, but whatever.
expense.
Expense.
Yeah, applicant's expense, yeah.
All right, so under D, is everyone okay with the scope of the study? It says the study shall evaluate and anticipate traffic impacts of the proposed development on the existing and planned roadway network and shall identify any recommended roadway or traffic control improvements necessary to maintain safe and efficient traffic operation. The scope and methodology of the traffic impact study shall be consistent with the latest edition of the Tennessee Department of Transportation Traffic Impact Study Guidelines or other standards approved by the Planning Commission. And that pretty much puts it on to the state's requirements. So as the state requirements change, so will that. That kind of keeps it flowing up to date at all times in that way.
Mhm.
That pretty much runs through all the different changes of each one of those. If everyone's on board with that, I'll entertain a motion to send this to the full commission for consideration. Knowing that after that first vote, it'll go to planning for theirs and then back to commission for a final. That's gonna be the fastest way to get it put in place. Otherwise, what you'd have to do is you would do a final out of here, send it to planning, then in which we still have time to do that.
First of
It-
September?
It would hit 1st of September. If we take the first vote on it at this meeting, that's August. Planning reviews it in September before it's law, because it takes 2 votes to become law. That should take care of the state's requirement for planning to review it. And then it can be put in law in September that way, or October if we do it the other way.
So what if the planning wants to add something or take something away after you guys have already had your first vote? They can,
They can still do
you
that.
can still do the second vote and
Yes.
be.
We can amend it the night of the second vote
There you go.
and
Good.
still pass it. So that doesn't change anything.
Perfect.
It just has to be reviewed by the planning commission before it's law. So it takes 2 votes to make it law. That fits the parameters.
Make a motion.
So we got a motion as amended. Do I have a second? Second by Jeff, motion by Lonnie. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Well, in your packet is the temporary use permit application that we voted on last month. I wanted that to be put in. It will now be part of the minutes also as a record from this meeting. So there is no additional fee associated with this. This was just put out by us as the new application form. That was voted on and passed unanimously.
And
And I did verify with Amy Thomas, Public Works currently, before we passed this, did not actually have a formal form. So this actually created an application to be used. So I think that covers a huge hole there. The person who was handling that part no longer works for the county, and so the mayor's office is having to fill in that department, and they have uncovered some holes of a couple of the past people from Public Works who weren't necessarily doing the full due diligence of that department. And so this fills one of those holes. Hopefully the next person they get in there can help with Cliff's oversight and get some things cleaned up in there. We'll see. So now this does put it firmly into your department.
Okay.
It's already gone through buildings. That was already decided there and voted on.
Mhm.
So temporary use permitting, park, pavilion, reservations still goes through Public Works.
Yes, sir.
The way this process, based on all the motions and everything that's been decided between the two committees, is it'd be just like a business license. Person goes to codes and zoning, they check with Rosalie. Here's all my information. Here's what I'm going to be doing at this area. And if it's on public property in the park or whatnot, then they will go over to Public Works, and then they will fill out the necessary paperwork for reserving a pavilion or the park in general, and pay whatever fees that Public Works already has associated with that. So that's what's in place. It'll
Can I
be,
ask for just a clarification? So.
Yeah.
I thought just the pavilions, so if they rent the park and not the pavilions, they still need to come.
yes, they still need to come to you.
Yeah, because they've got to provide all the.
But the fees for renting the park still runs through Public Works.
Gotcha.
Just like on the business license, they come for you to make sure they can operate the business, but the actual license fees still go through the clerk.
Not a problem.
So that should at least get something in place.
Absolutely.
And if the commission doesn't like what is on the books and current, then they have the authority to adjust and change that. We try to start that work, and hopefully they can finish it. I believe it needs to be finished. And that's just one of several things. The other thing that I wanted, since we've already gotten the ordinance squared away, I wanted to kind of move down on the review. What I was thinking of is, what else we have as pending items. We had just started the conversation about the, I remember how we worded it last month. The large use, electricity and water industries, and coming up with regulations for that to add to zoning. There is nothing currently, as far as a category for the use matrix. So for data centers, for foundries, for wood pulp, paper mills type stuff,
Lithium batteries.
lithium batteries, all those things would require larger amounts of electricity than the average we already have, and larger water consumption than we already have. I did reach out to the water department and looked at some of the water usage for Trousdale County's current industry. And pull that up real quick. I can. But I was amazed at actually how much water our current industry does use themselves. There it is. The higher use facilities, of course, Garrett Brothers, their average per month is 120 gallons. Mueller Refrigeration uses 109,000 gallons per month. And Catalog Kings, the printing, they're using 25,000. So the two bigger uses, Mueller and Garrett Brothers. I did not include in my request for Civic That's not really manufacturing. That's more housing of inmates and whatnot. I didn't think that was a fair comparison to compare. I would think that they would have to be somewhere in that 120,000 also. So that's information that I'll pass on to whoever the next chairman is. So that they have that. I'll get a copy. I'll forward that email on to you, Rosalie, so that you have that information also. I was not able to get anything from Tri-County on the electric side. That I was told that that was going to have to be a per business request, and I'd have to have authorization from the business to give that information to us.
Well,
So-
I mean, planning looks at that anyway, don't they?
Or is electrical usage?
Or no, if somebody's wanting to do something like that, if Trucking says they can, or if the water department says they can't, they won't,
Then that's,
they
yeah,
won't zone it anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we do, get will serve letters, like these PUDs that are coming through, you guys get in your packets. You'll see a will serve letter. We get it from the water utility that's in play and the, electric utility that yes, we can supply this development with.
Just like we did on that last.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
so this information wasn't meant to whether they could be served or not. It was meant as a guideline of, okay, what are we going to list as excessive use? If you don't know what the normal use is, how do you specify what excessive use is for that category? So I was just trying to get a baseline there. And to me, it looks like you could go 130,000 gallons and above would be considered excessive use. And then that's what you would have those categories in. And that would include data
I
centers
guess
also.
let's looking, like, from what the proposal thing about it, if it's there, what does it matter? You know, if it's available, what does it matter if it's excessive or not?
Well,
Because it's going to impact what you pay as an individual.
currently, we can't withstand a tremendous amount of growth on high water use.
Yeah, I got that.
As far as electricity goes, certain things such as a data center, that's gonna be cheap. Talked about this at great length. A lot of us have, spoke to David about this. A data center sounds like a bad word. It definitely is generation 1, generation 2. They are absolutely horrific. How much water are they squandering over there in Sumner County?
I'd have to, in that article that they posted, the newspaper posted, they broke it down in per month and then a year. And I think in a year it was over 1 million gallons.
Okay, we could withstand that. However, anything, when you get to Gen 3, which is where we would be at this juncture, it's closed loop. It's a one-time closed loop, ethylene glycol and whatever else is in that. It's like a radiator on a car.
Chiller.
Yeah, it's a chiller. So that changes everything as far as the power side of it goes. The power would have no impact on us because that would be direct to TVA, most definitely. However, the upside of that is like with, we talked about this with Enbridge, that is a utility. So the property tax on that is a depreciation table. It's called an ad valorem tax. So we will get a higher rate of return from the property tax on the onset. And then as it ages out, the property tax value goes down to utility. The data center, totally the opposite, being the fact that it is not an ad valorem, it is not on a depreciation table, it is on an appreciation, not depreciation table. So like anything else, as my house has gone up in value than anybody else's, their price will go up in value. It would be greater value. It would be more valuable because there would be more land. It would be far more valuable than prison, and we know what the prison generates. Except for that would have no impact on us where the prison has a tremendous amount of impact. Dollar for dollar collected versus dollar, revenue generated. It's just a pass through. Right now, it's just a wash. Everything we collect from them, it goes out. They basically use it.
A lot of the,
They eat it up.
Do they actually even still build the Gen 1s and Gen 2s anymore?
Not at this juncture, they're probably not, but you can mandate them.
So in my conversation with Helene Cash out at Tennessee Central, she has been approached by several, she said, companies looking for areas to put a data center. Everyone that she has had come and talk with her has been Gen 3 or or above.
Once you get to Gen 4, you get into modular, small scale, not modular nuclear. But then again, it has to be, but they still have to be closed. If we don't get on the front, but the thing is, again, it's closed loop. The modification for using stormwater is on your Gen 1, Gen 2s that are water hogs. They just find a way to clean stormwater, make use of it as well. Smart. However, on the other side of it though, when we get to Gen 3 and beyond, there is going to be very little to no impact on us. One thing to keep in mind is we need to probably look at getting in front of all this before there's laws that come in that supersede what we're doing, and we end up stuck with whatever the hell they want to put here, and that's a high probability. So this is something that this next go around, we need to get in front of this. I've read, I don't know how many articles on this until my head hurts. And so we are going to have to be on the front side of this because, again, historically, since I've been a commissioner, I came in here and banged my head on this subject right here. County has operated 100% in a reactionary state for decades. We have to start picking up the ball and running not reactionary, but a proactive state. I'm sorry, the words are getting tired. If we don't, cost of doing business is going to keep escalating. Doing business in the now is 30 to 60% higher than doing it, with a plan. And that's, unfortunately, we just got to stop that because that's killing us. We're hemorrhaging money now. So this is one situation where I think going into this next lineup of new commissioners, that's going to have to be on top of solidifying where we are with PUD, solidifying where we are with temporary use. That's on the front side of this, along with this thing with data centers. We got to have footage in place because people, we don't want no data center. Okay, if they haven't kept up on the news, we can say we don't want data centers till we're blue in the face. What is the term that was just mandated by the president? What are you saying? He's saying
Matter
that
of national security.
it is a matter of national security, which means you have no say, and you may or not make it. At that point in time, when it's a matter of national security, it is now a government sanctioned installation. At what one time we don't claim. Get on the front end of it.
Like what you're saying, excessive. I guess I'm still trying to wrap my mind why we even have to define excessive.
Mhm.
Is it so like
It creates the category.
the data centers?
Mhm.
They're making them pay to upgrade whatever has to be upgraded, electric, water.
Report themselves.
Are you saying that maybe if we market, we set a excessive, then they have to contribute to?
Yes,
Everything above that.
Well, they have to contribute to whatever has to be done to supply.
but
Yes.
So it doesn't come back.
it doesn't.
raising water bills.
Yeah, it doesn't leave us in the situation where we're forced to provide them.
That's what I thought. I was like,
So through the training that I've received, both in planning and in here and having conversations with Rick Gregory and the training that Rosalie and both I've gotten through the state, one of the things that they really pushed, and I learned a lot when we were doing the adult entertainment ordinance, you cannot specifically regulate one type of business. So
It's
you can't-
genre, not type.
you can't just go in and attack one legal
you
entity.
go with the usage.
So you do it a category, and
Yeah.
here's the things that fall in the category. You can have separate regulations for each one of those categories underneath that. So you have your excessive use of water and electricity, okay? And then here's the examples
Of the
that fall
industry
under
that
that.
do yeah.
And here's some regulations for those exact So like we have for mining, and we also have for quarries. So it has its section and then regulations specifically for that. Campgrounds. We have, it's different than a trailer park, and it has different regulations. So this would create a category in the zoning that doesn't exist now. And then underneath that, you could have your data centers and you could have pulp mills. And so on your usage matrix, you have, we did categories, and then underneath one of those categories, you had the actual usage, and then you follow across, and here's where your zoning goes. And currently, we don't really have nailed down zoning for whether that can go into a regular light industry zoning, whether it's M1 or M2. It's not determined yet.
It would further define what would be considered M1 and beyond by
Yep.
Number one, intervallically, how much water their use is, what their power consumption is, because if once it hits the threshold, it's no longer light industry.
Exactly.
So it forces it into the next category.
So
They had a thing on Newsmax the other night, and they talked about water. But it's the next thing that could, you got a lot of states right now in a drought.
Mhm.
They got rivers that are going dry. They ain't got no water.
Georgia's been trying to move their state line.
It's gonna
for-
be water, gonna be one of the biggest things that will hit this world in the future.
Desalination would be the
Mm.
next frontier.
So the state of Georgia has been trying to shift their state line north to get access to the Tennessee River for at least the last 20 years. With,
Oh, yeah.
with no success, but because of all the drain on Atlanta and its surrounding area, they're trying to pull out of the Tennessee River and they're trying to get that shift done. And because they're struggling at times to keep their water table up.
Well, yeah.
That's like
For that same-
the common sense way. Everybody's having trouble with this flooding anyway. I don't know where to catch it.
Well, and that's what TVA did back when it was, I mean, that was its original
Yeah.
plan, is to dam everything up and to be able to control the water being let out.
Well, California, they tore all their dams down.
Yeah,
Of
well,
course, they're idiots anyway.
but that's,
That's why people are moving here by the tens.
so is there any other thing, I mean, so I know the last couple of things we've been working on, because I want to make sure we have a good record for the next incoming subcommittee. We've got the PUD ordinance being addressed. We've got the temporary use that we've been doing. We've got the excessive water and electric that needs to be continued on. Those were the last ones that, I mean, stormwater runoff, that was one we knew we needed to get to, but we knew we couldn't get to it this year. But those seem to be the predominant need to get done first. I mean, there's still there is the whole, we've got to update our, I still get back and forth, but there's the growth plan needs to be updated for Trousdale County. There has been a proposal put forth to the mayor's office. And Rosalie and I both have talked about it. I think it would be a great benefit instead of having to pay a firm a flat out $120,000, $150,000 to do all the legwork, to get all the information and to do that plan for us. Amanda Harrington, who is already on staff with us, who is already more than qualified to do this project and has done it for other entities, has suggested that just upping her monthly fee, and then she would do that process along with what all she's already doing. So it would only be a $2,000 a month increase to the county, which Rosalie, once again, talking with Helene Cash at Tennessee Central, they're looking at trying to get a grant to pay for that $2,000. So it would be a large lump sum grant, and that just gets allocated out to Amanda as the project goes on, so that it is a minimum, if no impact to the actual budget of the county. We've got enough problems next year you guys are going to have to sort through. That trying to do this, but it's got to get done. It's a mandate from the state to planning that the planning commission is supposed to have been doing this periodically anyway. And we've dropped the ball in planning. We tried to pick it up during Mr. Chambers' administration. That kind of fell through with COVID, and then he didn't get reelected. And so you get the new mayor coming in, and then we have to start it all over again. We end up using some of the funds that were allocated for that plan for the unification of the two zoning ordinance. That paid for Rick to do that. I think that was a more important need
At the moment, yes.
but that still needs to be addressed. That funding still has to come back up.
Several years ago, NRC or
NRG,
yeah,
GN.
there you go.
Yeah.
We'll get it out there.
they put out all the commissioners to come up to the courthouse, and we do a advanced program for the county.
Mhm.
I think 5 showed up.
Yeah.
Now the rest of them didn't show up.
And it's going to be one of those things that when the commission starts this project, whether it's through planning, personally, I think, granted, it's mandated by planning. I get that. Without buy-in from the county commission, we're wasting time and money. Because if the commission's not going to adhere to it through its rezonings and whatnot, we're just wasting time. I mean, yeah, planning has to do it by the state's, authority. But if we can get the commission all on board, so we're all rowing in the same direction, it just makes it better. It makes it more effective. It makes a better county. There is an issue that was brought up to me that I don't really know an answer to, other than to say, well, that's the way it's been since the late 1800s. A gentleman fixed up a property recently, and he's like, I just don't get it. David, I'm just trying to run a business. If you have a piece of property in Trousdale County and it's run down, well, they're going to fine you until you fix it. And then once you fix it, they're going to charge you more for your taxes because now it's worth more. So I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. What can we do? The state of Tennessee says you're going to maintain your property to a certain standard, and as the value goes up, you pay more taxes. That's the current system. I would love to find a better system. As a property owner in Trousdale County myself, I 100% understand that situation. But that's what the comptroller states, the state of Tennessee states, you're going to do that. We have in Trousdale County, every year the commission has voted to the new building standards, the new building codes. Along with that is another code for maintenance. So this body has, well, not this particular body, but the county commission has put into effect for at least 10 years now, every time you upped the building codes, you upped that next maintenance code. I would challenge anyone other than Rosalie, because she knows exactly where it is, anyone to try to find what your maintenance codes are. They are not on the county website. The only way I know to do it, and I haven't actually seen all of them, is you have to go through the, help me out with the abbreviations, the ICC website, and you can look at it there. Rosalie and I have discussed trying to get a copy of it posted to our website. Well, the ICC wants to charge you for that.
They want to charge you for the roads you're supposed to be following.
Yes,
To know exactly.
Copyright.
it's copyrighted, and so it's their material. They won't just sell it to you. They want to charge you a fee every year for having access to it. So that is something that I wanted to bring to this body's attention before I leave, so that you are aware of that situation, that unless you go to Rosalie's office or you go yourself and hunt down on their website those maintenance codes, they're there. Their state, their county law that you have to maintain those and can be enforced at any time. But you have no idea of what they are. I really think it's important that that be on the county's website so anyone can look and see what standards they're having to be held to.
So we also have municipal codes. Well,
We do.
that, we should be able to find.
Yeah, and
on our
municipals
website.
are on the website. But this, like I said, those are being brought in. I would bet I'd put $100 on it. There's not one commissioner, myself included, who's actually looked through those maintenance codes when they voted. They just voted, yep, we'll do this next one because our planner told us to. Whether it was Dwight, whether it was Sam, or whether it's Rosalie, yep, we need to do this, great. But no one actually looked at those maintenance codes and even realized the maintenance codes were part of the packet that you were approving, not for the new ones.
What you gonna do?
That's another thing that we need to do.
That's another thing that, that needs to get done this next year.
Do we have a lot of this? Regulation.
What do you mean,
In violation, do we have a lot?
properties?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I
Horrifically.
have, several that are property maintenance complaints that are active cases that are being addressed.
And
Normally, they gotta get pretty bad for somebody complaining, though.
Not necessarily.
Really.
you could just have a falling out with your neighbor.
You can have a nebbish neighbor that.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of tires. He was right on it. I mean, I hauled off 80, I think.
So I
It
mean,
was a lot of tires.
but the thing is our municipal maintenance codes, couple pages. The
Well, it does
ICC,
address that too.
the ICC is a book of maintenance codes. Oh, yeah. But once again, it's another thing that is law.
The old boot
And-
barn.
And the responsibility of Rosalie's office is to enforce standing law. She has chosen not to, and
I mean, it's gonna be hard for her to enforce it. She can't even, if she can't show them the law.
well, I mean, she can print it out. Yeah, she can.
And I have access to it electronically that I can put up on my phone. And every time, just like with any type of building inspection, if something is not code, I let them know and I give them what the section is. And you can actually go online and you can do 2018 property maintenance code and do a topic and it'll pull up that section. And you're not gonna be able to get the whole book. But the property maintenance code, that only addresses, it's not gonna say your grass is higher than 12 inches, you gotta cut it. They're looking at the conditions of houses, whether or not they have heat. They deal with life safety requirements. What is, things that you need to have in order to be safe.
And I'm not saying it's not something we should have, by all means.
But you're
My
saying,
statement is it should be available to the public so you know what standards you're being held to. When you buy a property in Trousdale County, it shouldn't be a surprise. What do you mean you can take my house if I don't pay my property taxes? What do you mean I have to keep my property to a certain standard or it can be condemned and taken from me? What do you, all these things should be known up front. This is part of being a citizen in Tennessee.
is it too strict?
What's that?
The main really too, is it really too much?
No, it's really common sense, honestly. If you don't have if you have an open space and you see dirt, and your floor is just missing, that's unsafe. That's a hazard.
Who's to prove? So makes it more accessible.
Like where you can go to,
Having a link on the page on the county's website. Couple items.
So if you get the link, Amy can add it to the planning's deal, but I believe you had to pay to get through that link. 'Cause
yes,
we looked at-
I have
Wait
a
a second.
online subscription.
Wait a minute, you have to pay?
Yes, I have an online subscription, but I
Okay,
can
so
pull
you
up a
get
digital.
okay, so if you pull up a digital copy, can we not park that file?
No, sir. No, sir.
That's what Rosalie and I looked
Access to
into.
it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Racket. Okay, so are we able to have people get printed hard copies?
People get printed hard copies, no, sir.
We
In
can
fact,
have a copy that we can hand somebody and say, look, this is.
You have to buy their book. It's
Gotta
all
buy it all.
copyrighted.
How close is ours to the
A
book?
little over 100.
It's not, well, there's some overlap, but there's difference. And my point is, it's law that the county commission has adopted. You've adopted this
And
and
we can't even see.
exactly, without paying a fee.
I
You
voted
can
for it
see
every
it, you
time
can come to
too.
the office. We have
Yeah.
to keep those books.
You
in the
can't do
office.
it all, hold it up.
Right.
Do we own the books?
Yes, sir, we sure do. I have books as well as online access as well, so when I'm out in the field, I can.
And my point is, I believe and have always just never found a way that the average citizen, just like we did with the zoning, should be able to go to the county website, pull up, here, click on the link, here's the codes, search, okay, I've got an issue with a hole in my floor. There's your codes for that. They have that set up if you'll pay the fee. And I don't know
What is
if they
the
get
fee to
around
have
that.
that?
It's over $1,500, and I got that at a discount for 3 years.
1,500 a year for 3 years?
1,500.
For a 3-year, for a 3-year
access
license?
For one person.
For one person, one access. You have to have a username and password.
So we can't just publish bullet points that says these are the bullet points that have to be, and then if they, for further clarification.
Oh, now I can copy a little section, like when I do letters, legal letters. I will do
You
that
pull statutes and drop them.
and drop it in there.
But it's not like you could take the book and do copy,
Paraphrasing.
yeah, bullet points and then create our own document with their, now you're copyright infringement. And this is how they support themselves as an entity. So I don't know a solution. Like I said, I've been mulling this over for 4 years. Rosalie and I have had conversations back and forth about it. There's not a simple solution, or if I would have already presented it to you.
We just need to make our own, not even follow there. Adopt there.
It's something, no, you haven't. You're about to have to redo them again. So that's what you need to consider.
So would you not want to adopt a property maintenance code? That really outlines
Yeah,
safe buildings, safe homes.
Yeah.
Safe dwellings.
It
safe
does.
Property.
and it does give the county the ammunition that when a place is condemnable to say, here's why it's condemnable.
That it is an unfit.
Yeah. So like I said, there's not an easy solution here. I'm just bringing it up because I'm not going to be around to be able to.
It's not from,
Do-
if you can't see from outside, you.
No, that's
That's
exactly
not true.
right. It's just like.
That if you've got holes in the
So-
floor and
But you,
infestations, that is a safety issue that's public health.
Nobody's gonna tell that.
yeah,
So,
other than kids or something, somebody call for,
Yeah.
welfare check or something.
right. So when I go out to a property, somebody has filed a property maintenance complaint. The only thing that I can do is what I can see from the road. I can drive up the driveway. I can walk up the sidewalk and approach the front door, asking if I could go on their property to see. If I can't see it from the road, from the driveway, or from the front porch of the house, I don't have permission to go to the back.
Well, saw it, they probably didn't have permission to even be there either.
So, but if they're neighbors, they see it over their fence, that's a whole different story. I mean, they have that. So I document everything. I take pictures of everything. And I've had to address things. I can't necessarily comment on active complaints because there may be legal action. So,
But honestly, you can drive around the county and you can see easy violations.
Well, that's enough.
I know.
And it's a full,
I voted for it every time it's always come up.
the problem that I don't think is ever fully addressed is the burden of enforcement that is on that department. That it also has to keep up with inspections and also has to keep up with permitting and then the planning of new projects coming in. The enforcement always gets left out because it is so arduous. You not only have to, as she said, you don't just go to the property and state, hey, here's your violation. You have so many days to give me a solution of how you're going to rectify it. And then you get so many days to rectify it. And then if you don't do that, well, then you have to serve another letter. And then it has to go before the attorney, and then you have the legal. So you could file a complaint and be tied up multiple times with the same complaint up over a year.
there's been one complaint that took 2 years.
And that's just one
I
complaint.
think it would be hard anyway. Like, more than likely, it's holes in the floor. They probably don't have the money to fix it. They could, if they did have the money, they wouldn't be there, would have it. I can understand.
They wouldn't spend it to do that anyway. They spend it on something else.
Yeah. I mean, there's a house there at Second Creek going down Old 25 that sits up on the hill with the junk cars around it. That thing has been under construction for over 30 years. Yeah. I still don't understand how that place has never been condemned. I used to know a family that lived there, and one of the boyfriends that dated the girl that was there, he swore every time he went in there, a wall was in a different location. The rooms would just disappear.
Well, it was a one-story house that they made two.
Yeah. And so it's just, but that's just another, there are a couple of houses that you wouldn't even believe. It's better now, but there were houses when I first moved to Charleston County, I couldn't believe people actually lived in. Holes in the walls that were, shoved paper into to block them. There were some shacks around here that have all mostly been torn down now and been fixed. But we still have some buildings here in downtown part that are in some pretty rough shape.
I live in one.
So
Yeah.
what's really heartbreaking are when people call the office and they're renters and they don't have for, there, you know, there's not much I can do. We really haven't adopted an ordinance to address rental.
Yeah.
And hold landlords, yes, sir, you sure can, other jurisdictions do it. But as
Difference
far
between
as,
law and right.
no,
Yeah.
I get it, so.
At the same time, renters need to have some sort of protection because we're getting more and more renters when people can't afford to buy property anymore. And as property taxes keep going up, because that's what we have to fund the services for the county's kind of, well, the state, I would put the blame on, but the county is kind of responsible for it being harder for people to own property versus rent property. Also, you've got people who are, I mean, that's their retirement. They're making good money off rentals. And not fixing some of the rentals up makes more profit for them.
It makes up for the other day, like we have. Put a bunch of money on it.
I tell you, I'm working on that.
There's one house up the street, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, got a double garage in the back, 298,000.
But we have some really good landlords, renters that really do take care. We got some nice rental properties in Trousdale County. We got a couple, not so much. That they don't live around here. They bought it just as an investment, or they moved away, and they don't take care of the places. And the renters themselves, they're less, well, either find you somewhere else or deal with it. And that's just the way it's always been. So it'll be up to this commission whether you guys want to change that or not. But
You got business downtown, nobody rents, because the rent's too high.
my point is bringing it up is if y'all don't know what the issues are, then how do you fix them? If you don't understand, if you don't understand the current situation, well, then how do you make any decisions on whether you keep it, you change it, or because you don't know? So I've always tried to bring information forward, if for no other reason than discussion. Whether we act on it or not, that's to be determined. But like I said, these maintenance things, I've always found it annoying that I couldn't just look it up. And if I find it annoying, I'm sure other residents do too. I do not know a solution. And I wish y'all well trying to figure one out.
We could ask maybe the county library to look for code books to keep down there as reference.
We never discussed this, but bringing that up, could the county library purchase a usage license and then you could go to the library and look it up? I mean, that's
Something that they could look at.
that would still be
Okay.
$1,500 you'd have to allocate to their budget to pay for that 3 year. And I don't know if they would get the same discount.
Would it be
being a
3 years if
library.
you bought the hard copy?
Well, I'm not talking about the books, having access to the online. Because the online's always going to be up to date where the books could, be out of date every couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never really discussed that.
It's
That's an
only
idea.
Yeah.
It's a 7-year cycle.
Yeah.
So,
But that might be something for you guys to look into, is to see, because I mean, that money could easily be allocated over to the library as a line item shift to cover that access. But like I said, you don't know it's a problem unless you know it's a problem. So that's all I've got for as far as pending items. There is no public. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to pending to have a record of that? Well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Second.
All right.